I am Lenis, as in Separa, so you can call me Lenis or Aislinn. So, um, yeah, I am currently doing my PhD in New Zealand, but I'm currently in the Philippines right now for a short vacation. So I'm really glad that I had this time to speak with you and to share something with you. So we have different reasons for um, publishing, right? So there. So why do we need to publish? So the first, my question should be, why do we want to publish? And I initially that's my question. And before I thought about it, why want? I think the more proper term for that is need, because we wanted it because we know that we need it, right? So I know that every one of you has different reasons why you feel the need to publish. So Jolly Ann has mentioned a while ago that yeah, we needed to publish because we wanted to advance our professional development. We wanted to promote our universities in the academic community, not only in the Philippines but also in the international academic community, because it's also our way of putting forward what new knowledge that we have developed in our own country and be able to make other scholars know that hey, Philippines exists, and we have different schools and universities that are generating new knowledge for the world, right? And another thing is that some of you are also taking your postgraduate degrees. So I'm not sure if it's already um, required in master's or in doctorate degrees in the Philippines? If yes, of course, you have a real need to publish, right? So I hope I'll be able to help you with this. Don't worry, this will be a very simple approach on how to get about with the publication. Okay, so I'll be very much welcome to accept questions coming from students. I know that we have graduate students here. And some of you would like to, just see your name online. You have this certain level of satisfaction seeing your name in Google Scholar. Oh, I'm already a published faculty member, and it feels great that I can see my name there in Google Scholar whenever I put my name there. So yeah, it's something very personal to us. And every time that you see your name there, having a publication at the same time, receiving prompts from Google Scholar that you have a new citation. So it's a very exciting feeling. Okay, for any academic. So I know a lot of you here understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so we have different motivations for publication, but the bottom line is we need to publish, right? So we have different reasons. So um, the learning outcomes that we wanted to have in this seminar is that we will be focusing really on the writing of research in the IMRAD format. This is not something new to us. I know that you have learned this in school, or I mean, this is part of your discussion in your research subjects. But I also understand the need that, okay, so the lecture itself, it's not, it doesn't really equip us so much on how to write, because we have more time for the lectures, we have other tasks in school, and most of the time, in terms of writing, we struggle. Okay, so that's why I'll be showing, actual texts that are written in the Imran format. At least this is one way of supplementing what you have learned in school. So it goes hand in hand. So what you have learned inside the classroom and what you learn in the webinar, it should go together and support each other's teachings, right? So after that, we will also be touching on the submission of manuscripts for journal publication. So where should we submit? Or if your school has your own journal publication, what should you be considering when you wanted to submit your piece on the journal? Okay. And three is respond to reviewers' feedback. So I've heard a while ago with Ms. Jolly Ann that this is also one of the key objectives of our webinar. How do you comply or reply to the feedback that you have received from the editor or from the journal? Okay, so I hope you'll be able to manage all of these learning outcomes after our session. So let's go straight to the IMRAD format. Um, Again, this is the usual. So I'm not telling that this is the standard that all of the journals are adapting to, but lately we can see that conclusion part is not so much uh, stressed or emphasized in journal articles. You can also see call for papers which have this conclusion, but if you look at newer, articles or other journal articles, they don't use the conclusion. So I think this is the first thing that is new to us or something weird about this discussion because it doesn't have a conclusion. So later on, we'll be running you through with all of these sections and would come to know that where would this conclusion come in. Okay, so this is for those who have just started with their research courses, yung mga graduate students natin. So this parts of the journal article are very what do you call this? More or less common among all of the journals. So you have the title page, you have the keywords there, introduction, literature review, methods, results discussion, future research and limitations, or conclusion and references. Okay, so we will be going through each concept or each section one by one. For the title page, so what I'm showing you right now is the usual title page of a published article. But of course, when you submit your manuscript, you don't usually pass your manuscript this way. So this is just the final printing version. But in a title page of a journal article, you can usually see the name of the journal article, the volume number, issue number, the date it was published, the page, the ISSN, EISSN. So you can find it there. And most of the time, they have this DOI. So maririnig natin yung DOI, Digital Object Identifier. And then you have the title, the name of the authors, their affiliations, yan, yung email addresses. But this is not very common that, but it's there. And then the abstract and the keywords. Okay, so what do we expect in a title page? So for example, when you're trying to submit an article, because personally, this is the last part that I write whenever I write research articles. Yung abstract sa huli na yun sinusulat kasi you have to put there in 100 to 150 to 200 words usually all of the salient points of your research. So you can't do that if you're just starting the research. So usually in those 100 to 200 words, you have to squeeze in everything. The background of the study, you have to give your reader an idea. What is it all about? What is the context of the study? In just looking at the background, they would be able to familiarize with themselves or contextualize themselves in your study. Okay, and then of course after that, the research problem itself, it doesn't have to be in a manner that you have written it in your thesis, for example. To what extent does communication affect a personality of a person, like that? So it doesn't have to be in the question form all the time. So it's embedded in the paragraph that you are writing for your abstract. Okay, and then a brief description of what methods you have used in a particular paper, because there are some journals who are which are really into quantitative and those who are into qualitative. So sometimes in just by just looking at the methods, they would know if your article fits their journals. And then of course the findings is very important. And if you have future research recommendations, or do you think that limitation is very much important in the understanding of your research, just put it there. Okay, but it must be very, very short, 100 to 200 words. Again, it depends on the specifications of their journal, but I don't know if 250 words is common because it's too long for an abstract. Okay, so of course the title and the affiliations of authors. So as for the authors, we have to decide among ourselves. Okay, which who will go first? Will go second, third, fourth. Most especially for our students that you are working with group, or for our faculty members who are working with some other collaborators within our institution, or outside of our institution. So you have to decide on this. And I believe that the most ethical way of doing this is talk it over. Do not just pass the paper or submit the paper to journals, because you are the corresponding author. You just put your name on the first or as the first author. So you have to talk about this among yourselves and decide who among you should go first. So usually it has the greatest contribution to a research article. And then the same goes with the second, third, and the last. Okay, so and for the affiliation, if you have dual affiliations, for example, you have to put it there as well because it will greatly help your institution. For example, if you are putting it in your research article. So Ms. Jolly-Ann mentioned a while ago that it's also a way of helping your institution or making them known, okay, to the academic community. And through writing all of these, affiliation would do this purpose. Okay. And then you can see in the article that I'll just return this. You have there the keywords, right? Communication, speaking, speech, difficulty, English. As you can see, not everything in the title can be are put in the keywords or as considered as keywords. So the reason behind putting keywords is that even if a potential researcher search for search words or research articles that are related to their topic. So even if they were not able to type in the actual words that you have used in your title, by typing in communication, speaking, speech, difficulty, in the search terms, your there's a bigger possibility that your research will be suggested by the search engine, let's say Google. Okay, so that's the reason behind choosing other keywords, okay, that you think that are more common, that you think that would make your study more searchable online. Okay, so this is what you should be, look considering in your title page. Okay, so far, is there any question? None? Okay. So yeah, Miss Jolian, just feel free to inform me if there's any very important question that we need to tackle. Okay. So let's go to introduction. Okay. So this is usually the most, I believe this is the most difficult um part of the study that we should be writing. My supervisor would always tell me, oh, it has to be sexy. Your introduction has to be sexy, meaning it has to, capture the reader's attention with an interesting beginning paragraph. So it's like in one reading, you would catch their attention and at the same time would maintain their interest in your research. So I know this is very, hard to do, most especially if we're just beginning writers that we are not that sure yet with what we are writing about. And we're not yet so sure, we're not that confident if what we're writing is right or wrong. You get what I mean? So for the beginning writers, it's okay. Okay, it's okay that we have these thoughts, okay, and then we wanted to verbalize it. Just play with it, okay, because sometimes when we get peer evaluators or peer reviewers of our work, sometimes they would tell us right away, oh, this is not good. Okay. But sometimes we get disheartened that, oh, your introduction doesn't or is not well written. But you have to, ask them why. Why do you think it's not well written? What do you think would make this piece interesting? Okay, because writing the introduction is just not about defining the variables that you are including or that you are studying. So it goes beyond the definition. It goes beyond the what do you call this? It goes beyond the studies that are written about that variable. Okay, so you have in this section, the introduction, I've also experienced that you have the free hand to put forth your thoughts. What do you think would make this interesting to the reader? If you think that the historical perspective or the story behind the concept or the development of a variable, be it okay, as long as when you proofread your own work, it's like you are excited to read the article. So if you feel that way, or if you're one of your friends who happen to read your work feel that way, that they are enticed with what you are writing about, so I think you are in the right direction. Okay. So in a more formal perspective, it has to contain the issue of concern. So meaning you are directing your reader to your research problem. Okay. But you can do this, but not very abrupt. Okay, meaning you cannot just simply put in the first paragraph what the problem is all about. So you have to take it slow. You have to develop. Okay, how is this issue of concern or problem has developed over time? Has there been, a development in terms of uh, it can be similar ideas or contrasting ideas on the development of this concept or of this variable. So you have to put it in your introduction so that your readers can understand, oh, okay, so this author knows what he or she is writing about. This author knows that he's very knowledgeable or she's very knowledgeable of what the subject is all about. And this is what, research reviewers and editors are looking for in an introduction. Okay. And of course, after you have, put everything in there, what you know about the concept, what you know about, the big, the breakthroughs in those variables, let's say, or the big people. So of course, the mention of people, uh, the known people behind that theory or that concept, it's also essential in your introduction. Okay. And after which you have to you have to make them realize, okay, this is the development of the concept or of the variable, and then why are you doing this research? What new knowledge or what contribution can this give to the field of study? So if you are involved in education, there are lots of studies regarding education. What particular subspecialty of education are you trying to develop? For example, for the educational management. Okay, so what about educational management? Do you think is still untouched, or you can see the gaps there? But it's just an introduction. Okay, at least you have directed them to what your research is all about and how significant it will be. So you just put it in several, paragraphs, and the 400 to 500 words is suggested. So you won't be eating up a lot of your space, because we know that journals with usual journals only accept 6,000 to 8,000 words. So you have to budget the space. Okay, so in the introduction, it has to be very impactful in less words. So 400 to 500 words for it's just less than 2 pages, right? So you have to budget those less than 2 pages for your introduction. Okay, so here's an example. Okay, it's just an example of an introduction. We can see here that in the introduction, there are already references. So you are putting in your thoughts in terms of how you manage the flow of the conversation in the introduction. But it is also important that you'd be able to get insights from related literature. Sometimes the big question there is, what's the difference between the literature review and the introduction? Because you're also consulting previous studies or other literatures. Yes, that's correct. You're also including previous studies and other literature, but the discussion is, or the goal of your writing is to actually give a context to the study, and you are not tracing, or you're not going deeper into a certain theory that you wanted to consider in your study. Okay, so both the introduction and the literature review have these referencing, or the in-text citations, because you are consulting previous studies, but the aim of the text or that part of the section is different. Okay, so here I'm talking about immigration because this is what my paper is all about. So I'm talking about I'm studying Filipino migrants in New Zealand right now. So it's more on the communication aspect of of cultural adaptation. So I started my article with, talking about what immigration is about, how it started in New Zealand, what immigration policies brought people there, what immigration policies deterred people of, going there, or has affected the influx of people. Okay, so that's my introduction, because I feel that, if reviewers would be able to read this text, they would come to understand, oh, okay, so this is the context of immigration in New Zealand. So they would have this, even if they don't have an idea of what New Zealand is, or what the immigration context of New Zealand is. By looking at your paper, they would learn something new about it. Okay, so yeah, it's very important that you engage them in these type of text at the start of your paper. Okay, and then after discussing about the immigration, the flow of people across time, blah blah blah, you have this turning point in your paper that, okay, among the Asian ethnic groups, Chinese are the largest, followed by Indians, and then with Filipinos. So now you can feel that I am zeroing in with Filipinos. But prior to doing that, ayan, na-mute ako. It's okay. Yeah. So prior to doing that, I cannot just start my introduction that, oh, okay, I'm working with Filipino migrants, so I should start with what Filipino migrants, or details about Filipino migration in New Zealand. So I think, it's not the best way of starting an article, because who would care? Okay, so that's the question then. Who would care about, the presence of Filipino migrants in New Zealand? Who would care about the Chinese migration in New Zealand per se? Okay, so it means that it's very micro. Okay, the perspective, it's like it just appeals to, to very few people, for example, that is race based or ethnicity based. Okay, so for you to have a more engaging introduction, it has to appeal with everyone. It has to appeal with the general public, as they say. So across all nations, if they see immigration, and then they would see, okay, immigration in New Zealand, oh, okay, so it involves this country and different kinds of people. Okay, so at least you are engaging them. And now you're zeroing in to a specific group of people, because from our notes a while ago, you have to structure it from the macro to the micro perspective. So here we go, we are starting now to discuss about the Asians, and then the Filipinos, and then the rest of the paragraphs there are all about the Filipinos in New Zealand, what they do there, okay, what industries they're engaging in. So that's how you engage, or that's how you put their interest to your paper, because I'm working with cultural adaptation. Okay, so from the historical perspective, very macro, and then zeroing in to specific ethnicity, and then putting into context that I'm interested in doing acculturation study. Okay, in the communication perspective. So that's how it goes. Okay, and you can adapt that to, so if you have finished an article right now, you can set your introduction. Did I structure it this way? Or look by looking at what you have done? Don't worry, everything will be considered. It's just that it just need, a little of tweaking in such a way that it would be structured very well, in such a way that it will be very interesting for your readers. Okay. We have to, by the way, if you're writing this introduction, my appeal is that please use very simple terms. Okay, do not use very complex statements, because sometimes if there is a very low readability of your paragraphs, yung masyadong mahaba yung mga statements natin, sometimes it loses the interest of the reader. So it's very important that we discipline ourselves. I know that sometimes we wanted to make our writing based on how we think writing should be in an academic journal, but we have to consider all our readers, are very well versed with journal articles. So even the students, okay, it should be understandable to students as well, even undergraduate students. So we have to make sure that we are structuring it, our writing is very clear, very simple, okay, so that everyone can understand, everyone who would be interested in the work can understand what you have put there. Okay, so that's for the introduction. Any question about introduction? So I hope you are, trying to recall what you have written in your own papers if you are writing some papers right now. Okay, so the next that we're going to talk about is the literature review. So for students, I know this is one of the hardest tasks. Okay, that you believe that the hardest task your teacher would be able to assign to you in your paper. So, si introduction sa Germanic thesis, diba, we call it as the chapter 1, right? Chapter 1 yan, introduction, and then yung background of the study, significance, yan yung research problem. And then for chapter 2, that's our literature review. But for the journal article, it is the second section. There are journals which do not have literature review as a separate section. There are journals wherein literature review is embedded in the introduction. So you just need to study their target journal. So whatever the format or the template of the journal is, just follow it, okay? But if it's not there, if you cannot see the literature review in the journal, it doesn't follow or it doesn't mean that you do not need a literature review, okay? So sometimes that is our thinking, oh, it doesn't require a literature review. So I can just write my introduction and go straight with my methods because this is an action research. Okay. Sometimes we think, oh, this is an action research. I don't need much literature review because I'm into, looking at what's the application. Okay. It's application of this concept or of this teaching strategy to a class. So if we are targeting uh, if you are targeting to publish our paper, most especially among the reputable journal publications, we have to have a very solid literature review. Okay, so people would tell us that, okay, you have to make sure, or this is a common review feedback. Your manuscript does not contain updated literatures. So if you can receive those kinds of comments, they are referring to within the last 5 years. Okay, so I've experienced this feedback that sometimes, oh nga no, why didn't I put recent publications in my research? And you come to think that, oh, because I haven't seen, I haven't seen recent studies about what I'm doing right now. Uh, but the thing there is, if your literature review is not updated, or if it's not within the last 5 years or within the last 3 years, they would think that there are other studies that have been published that you were not able to capture in your study, or there are new developments which you were not able to include, or you're simply not part of the recent conversation about that research topic. Okay, because when we include a very comprehensive literature review, not only within the last 5 years, but tracing the development of these concept or of these variable that we are considering in our study, it means that we know the entire development of that field. Kumbaga, kung kailangan nila ng expert sa field, ikaw yung tatawagin nila because you have studied the development of that specific area. Okay, so that's the purpose of the literature review, that you have a bank, okay, a bank of the previous studies that are related to your current study. As for this one, I know that it's really hard to organize things, most especially if you're just using Google Scholar and then you're trying to download the articles that you think are related to your study. Uh, Personally, I use Mendeley. Yeah, so ako napaka ano sa akin yung Mendeley, no? I'm not really organized in terms of my study because I only read them as I need it. Okay, but if you are trying to establish a solid foundation of related studies in a certain field that you are studying, kailangan organized tayo. So you can try to explore Mendeley. Meron din tayong EndNote na tinatawag na ano rin siya, no, parang it's your online library. It's where you organize your literature, because there you can have annotations once you read it. Okay, you can put annotations there that, okay, what's the most significant item here that you think is relevant to your study. You can put it there. And every time that you write papers about this certain topic, you can revisit, okay, the annotations that you have put there, and that would really help you in organizing your literature faster, better, okay? And with more insights. Kasi nga, nabasa mo na siya, you have paraphrased some things there already, and then you have put your thoughts on how it goes with other concepts or with other studies. Mas mabilis ang ating literature review, okay? But the thing there is, make sure that you are including recent studies. Hahanapin po yan ng ating mga reviewers and of course our editors. Okay? So second point here is establish theoretical underpinnings from the literature search. So dito na natin ipapasok yung ano ba yung mga theories that we think are considered in our study. So I believe there are different paradigms, okay, in terms of doing research. So for example, for the quantitative, so it's theory testing. So we have to discuss the theory, and we have to um, look at if this theory works, if the relationship of variables suggested in the theory or in previous studies work in this particular study that you're doing. And for the qualitative, we understand that um, their approaches like grounded theory, that we are trying to generate a theory coming from our from the results of our research, or there are also times that we're trying to do the abductive, that we have this theory in mind, and we do the qualitative study, and then when we look at our data, we're trying to look at, okay, which circumstances are relatable to this theory, which are not, which could be new ideas coming from our study, okay? But the bottom line is, if we wanted to publish our work, we cannot tell the reviewers that, okay, there are no theories, there is no specific theory that can support or that is related the current research that I'm doing, because I'm doing a grounded approach. Okay, so we understand that disposition, but we need to uh, comply with what is required in a research in a journal article. So we have to have a discussion of the theories that is related to our study, and they will be looking at this theory, because um, if you're targeting top tier journals, most especially, they will look into how well versed you are in the theoretical development of that, involved in that variable, in that concept. Okay, if they see that you have a poorly written uh, literature review, including the theoretical underpinnings, there's a big possibility that it will be rejected, because if you submit papers and they would be looking for reviewers, you have to think about the background of the reviewers. They're giving your paper to certain reviewers because they have chosen them carefully, because they believe that these people are the authority in this specific branch of study. So if your paper is about educational psychology, then they would be looking at the accomplished researchers in educational psychology. Maybe it can be local or international. So it really depends on the journal of that you are trying to do. Or target viewing papers for journals. Journals only choose reviewers who are very qualified to review papers under that category. Okay, so that's how that should be our way of looking at writing our paper. Oh, this will be read by the experts. So I have to make sure that I'm writing everything that I need to write in this theoretical part. Okay. So yeah, that should be the mindset. And then after you have presented the previous studies based on the variable, right? That's how we are looking at. We're trying to look at what are the different studies that have been written about this, or if we are trying to uh, correlate to variables, what are the different studies that have been written that are trying to establish the relationship of these two variables. So may ganun kasi na makakita tayo ng similar studies that are also trying to, to link variables or to link the relationship of the variables. So mas maganda that we can include those kinds of studies as well. Not only, studies that are about that specific variable. Pwede rin yun, no? But establishing similar connections, similar to what you're studying, it would be better. Okay? Kasi reviewers would think, oh, okay, so there are lots of reasons why this researcher is trying to establish the link between or among these variables because similar studies have already been conducted, okay, about this. Okay, so it's a plus point, okay, for your paper. Okay, this is not a we know that uniqueness is something, it's an advantage, but if reviewers would looking at it, yeah, it is not always a merit for your paper, but you still need to, to make them know that there are other researchers who are also interested in this kind of of topic. So this is not an isolated case. Okay, so for the literature review, 1,000 to 2,000 words, but again, this is just suggestion, this is just an estimate. It depends on the flow of discussion that you have in your article. Okay, but usually this is 1,000 to 2,000 words. Okay, any question with our literature review? Okay, so if everything's clear with our points. So I've just highlighted this one, okay? So this is an example of a literature review that is focused on a certain variable. So my variable here is cultural maintenance. Okay, so I have under the cultural maintenance, since this is a quantitative study that I'm doing, under the cultural maintenance, I have different paragraphs about the variable. Okay, so but you have to make sure that in every paragraph that you compose for your literature review, you have to have a main idea in your first sentence. Not all reviewers, are that patient to look for the main idea in the middle or at the end of your paragraph. Okay? So we have to be very strategic as well in writing. Put your main idea in the first paragraph. So in this example, I have um, looked at the Ministry of Social Development article, and there is this general idea about culture that it gives a sense of belonging and well-being of migrants. So it's like cultural identity or cultural maintenance is something favorable to, yeah, to sense of belonging and well-being. So luckily I found this and I've quoted that. But if you didn't find anything which summarizes the main point of the set of literatures that you have found, it's okay that you don't have a citation there or an in-text citation. Just put it there. For example, that's your personal idea that that you are you think that all of these studies explains how well-being and sense of belonging are attributed to cultural maintenance. Okay, just put it there because the reason behind this is if reviewers cannot see what's your main point in the certain paragraph, they would, tend to have this comment that, okay, the literature is not that organized. I cannot see the connection between the literature or literature review with the variables that are being discussed. Comments, so to avoid, those kinds of comments that it's not coherent with what you're doing. So you have to make it explicit. You have to have the subtitle there, cultural maintenance, and then you have to put a main idea, okay, of what that paragraph is all about. Okay, so that's how we organize the literature review that we have if we are uh, working on the variable aspect. Okay, and then there is also a part of our literature review that we are trying to discuss a certain theory, right? So we have mentioned a while ago that we have to have a theoretical underpinning of our study. So for example, or in this example, I'm talking about the ABCs of acculturation. So I have just captured one paragraph. So ABCs of a culture is affective, behavioral, cognitive, perspective. So even in education, we have these terms, right? So I have chosen this one. So in the discussion of the theory, okay, in your paper, it's not enough that you are just describing what the theory is all about, what it says, who is the main proponent or the most famous proponent of that theory. So those are not enough. In every aspect, for example, I have the affective, behavioral, and the cognitive. So in every aspect of that theory, I have to discuss it in one or two paragraphs. Okay. First paragraph, I will discuss what that variable or what that aspect of theory is all about. What is its significance? How is it relatable to your current study? And of course, how it was related to previous studies. So kanina, meron kang part ng literature review that you are trying to discuss the development of a certain variable or the link between two variables. Okay? And then, hahanapin din yung literature review ay yung theoretical underpinnings. Etong pinipili mong study, how is it, relevant to other studies that is also or that also falls under the field that you're trying to study. Okay, so behavioral perspective in acculturation. So I'm trying to study that. Has this theory been used in other studies? Did they consider this perspective in other studies? So it's like always proving your point. Why you are telling me this? Why are you telling me that ABCs uh, of acculturation, this theory is important. Okay, and the importance of this theory is not only dependent that because I think it's relevant to my study. No, you have to prove them that hey, people are using this. Okay, other researchers find relevance in this theory. Okay, so yun yung kailangan nilang makita. You have to convince, no? Para bang lagi tayong may persuading power dun sa sinusulat natin. Okay, so we are always looking at your justification. Okay, and this is not just your opinion. Okay, but it's an informed justification of what you are writing about. That's why it's really important that we capture previous studies or we always use in-text citations of what we are trying to write about. Okay, so in this case, I've included studies on Asian immigrants, Asian international students, okay, and a lot more. Okay, so meron pa tayong mga susunod na paragraphs which proves that, oh, okay, this perspective is relevant to other studies. Okay, because it strengthens your literature review. Okay, so this is actually the second part or the second paragraph. So this one is about the behavioral, right? So behavioral perspective. And then I have different paragraphs after that. And then the second paragraph, which is related to behavioral. I've seen um studies which talk about the non-nativeness of migrants in terms of language and communication. Okay, so talking, speaking, socialization is a behavioral aspect, right? So it is something that you need to process yourself. Oh, if these sets of studies, it's about communication. This is about having non-native speakers. It's about their communication competence. No, you can be bombarded with different kinds of concepts, but you have to process them. How do they go together? How can they be relevant to each other? And what studies should go together? What should not be? What should be in another paragraph? Okay. And if you feel that these studies have relevance with each other, you have to connect it with its relevance to your own study. So in one paragraph, you have there the non-nativeness of migrants in using dominant cultures language for communication is associated with their acculturation experiences. So that's how I have framed these sets of literatures, because this is how I think these literatures are relevant to my current study. Okay, so you just also need to thematize them. You have to categorize them in such a way, or arrange them in order to make sense of the voluminous materials that you have seen online. Okay, so it's not just okay putting everything there. Okay, this is how what I've seen, what I've read about, blah blah blah. No, you are trying to make an essay about it. Okay? So, hindi ko to alam dati eh. So, it's really a struggle for me to write the literature review. Okay? But, if you can organize it, differently, or in a more, in a more coherent way, it would make the reviewers feel that you know what you're doing. Okay? It's just, putting forward what you know about what you're doing. Okay? Um, for those people who are doing quantitative study, this is also my question before. How do I insert the hypothesis? Do I just put it there in the middle of the introduction, or in the literature review? So ang maganda pala is, before you can actually put your hypothesis there, you have to tell the story first behind your study. So meron ka ng introduction, this discussion of the concepts, discussion of the previous studies about the variables, and then you have there the theoretical underpinnings, and then you can now focus on your own variables. But before putting in your hypothesis, reviewers should reviewers would be looking at, why did you arrive with those kinds of hypotheses? What's the basis for having those hypotheses? So you cannot simply say that, oh, okay, because this theory tells us that this variable one is related to variable two. So that's why, oh, okay, in my own study, I wanted to prove that. I wanted to prove if this has a positive effect or a negative effect. So it's not enough that we know the theory, what it says, and we're just going to put it there in your hypothesis. So before doing that, we have to establish previous studies again. Okay, this is also part of the literature review, that there are existing studies which tried, or which ventured on looking at the relationship of these variables. Okay? Kailangan pakita muna natin. So I have put there in this example, admit ko na yung iba ha, nagpa-prompt. Okay? So in this example, we can see that there is a discussion of the different literature which are related to ethnic preferences, acculturation, adaptability to the ecological environment, and then acculturation. So with this, I am now more confident in saying that, okay, I now have this hypothesis, not only because the theory says it, but because I have previous studies which tell me that these variables are really connected, or they do have connection with each other. Okay, so you'll be prouder in terms of submitting your paper, because you have a justification why I am claiming this hypothesis. So this is not just based on the theory, this is just not based on what my teacher has told me to study about, no, but this is something, this is an informed hypothesis. Okay, so you derived it with a reason. Okay, so that is for the literature review. Any question with the literature review before we move on? We move on to method section.
Ma'am. Hi,
Yes, Miss
ma'am.
Ivy.
Hi po.
Yes. Hi.
Ma'am, question lang po. When it comes to the citing of old references, kasi we are dealing mostly on business research. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand that there's a rule of thumb when when we make use of these old references. Is there any restrictions or requirements on when is this old references can be used in our literature?
Did I get it right? Old as in luma.
Yes, because I observed that in your example, you use more than or less more than 5 years old references or
Mm-hmm.
citations. Kasi usually we only prompt to at least 85% of old cited works po.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ano
Yeah,
po yun,
thank
ma'am?
you, Miss Ivy. Yeah, thank you, Miss Ivy, for inquiring about, the age of the literature. Yeah, before I also thought that okay, all of my citations should be new. And there are times that they would tell us that okay, you should avoid old literatures. But yeah, depending on
At,
the article itself, I've used materials as early as I think 1940s, because I've cited the Social Science Research Council. So 1940s, they have this. It's the time that they have develop the concept of adaptation. So I cannot go away with 1940s article, because as I've discussed a while ago, you can go historical in approach. For example, in business, if you are doing business research, for example, let's choose a specific business research. Example, marketing. If you are doing let's say a very old concept in marketing, let's say word of mouth. Let's say word of mouth marketing. Um, the development of the word of mouth marketing as a concept is not always explicitly stated in any study. Okay, because of course the word of mouth concept has just been coined for us to understand okay what word of mouth concept is all about, right? For us to have an understanding of what it is, common term. But if you would be looking at old marketing materials, the word of mouth concept may not be stated in the article, but you would realize that what they're referring to in their study is actually word of mouth. Okay. So if you have seen that article that is written in the 1970s, it's okay, just put it there. At least, the purpose of doing that is you are trying to trace the development of the concept of word of mouth marketing. And that would make your study, more comprehensive and well written. So, I don't know saan, siguro yung 85%, maybe we have just put that standard. I don't know um with our institution. Maybe it was just an advice of our institution, for us not to, to engage with old literatures. But as I've said, if you think that it is something necessary to put a lot of old literatures because you wanted to show uh, the audience of your article that, oh, hey, this is how it has started, this is how it has developed over time. So we cannot go away with the old literatures. It's okay. Okay, but we have to make sure that we are introducing the concept, but when we are trying to discuss the literature involving the variables itself, under our the concepts itself, we have to make sure that we have exhausted the newest literatures Kasi we have to prove them that we are part of the conversation. We have to prove our reviewers that we are updated with what we are doing. But it's a two sides of the coin. We cannot only tell them that, hey, I'm updated. I know what are the latest studies about this. But at the back of their minds, okay, you're updated. This is all of your materials are very recent, but do you know what you're talking about? Do you know how these concepts have been developed? Okay, so that could be, an avenue for them to in having a feedback on your paper. So, kumbaga, kailangan handa ka sa mga magfi-feedback na, oh, alam mo ba yung ginagawa mo? Do you know the foundation of that? And at the same time, are you updated with the conversation in the field? So I hope I've answered your question, Miss Ivy.
Yes,
Okay po ba
ma'am.
tayo?
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you po. Yeah. So do you have other questions regarding literature review? I know you're thinking a lot about this because we don't want to write the literature review. Haba kasi, no? Yeah. So kung meron pang questions, just feel free to unmute your microphones and ayan. Sige, I'll admit may mga pumapasok pa sa ating webinar. Oh, so we have now reached 105. It's great. Okay, so if you don't have question, I'll be moving further. So we'll be moving on to the methods. So method section. Um, Dito kasi sa methods, marami tayong formats. So we just need to follow the template of the journal of our target journal kasi meron silang iba't ibang klaseng uh, format kung paano nila nile-label. Okay? Or meron namang din journals that they don't actually prescribe a certain labels to the different aspects of methods. But the thing there is when writing the methods, this is also a point of realization that is my title sometimes is my title relevant to my research design because if reviewers and editors would be looking at their paper, tinitingnan nila yung title, tinitingnan nila yung method. Swak ba? Okay, so kapag medyo hindi, or in the title itself, they can actually see what your method is all about. So it's reflective. So yun lang. So when you're writing the methods, make sure that it is coherent with your title. Okay, and then for of course for the research design, you have to tell them okay what paradigm, what is it quantitative, qualitative, what particular technique in quantitative are you using survey, um, or something else? Did you do content analysis of newspapers? How many? How did you choose these materials? If it's secondary data, how did you choose it? What's the system of doing it or of choosing materials? Or yeah, for survey, who is your target respondents? Then dapat nakalagay dyan, what is your inclusion criteria? How did you choose them? The respondents, um, how did you make sure that the people who are not qualified to answer your survey were filtered? So you have to tell them, these things. How did you reach them? Did you use social media in floating your survey? Did you use advertisements? Did you use kung ito, explain natin ano yung natin. Did you apply for an ethics clearance from your university or from a certain institution to have the permission to proceed with the study? Because a lot of journals right now are asking about this. So this is a separate discussion, but I don't know if what are the policy of Chiang Kai-shek in conducting research. But for most universities right now, they're trying to establish their ethics center or research ethics center because we have to move forward in terms of the ethics aspect of doing research. So I think CUP meron na, CPUP meron na. I think I'm not familiar with the other universities kung they're trying to, yung mga medical schools, yan, may mga ethics center na sila. So, usually kasi ito, hinahanap ng mga journal publication. So, for example, did you secure an ethical clearance from your university or for the study? Yan, minsan yes, minsan no. The problem is if wala naman talaga, how can you say yes, 'di ba? So I think sometimes it is a deterrent for us to submit in, some reputable journals that require ethics clearance from the authors. So I just do not know how we can go about this, but if there's none, if it's not a requirement, then I don't think this would be a problem because this is part of the methods, okay? The method section, how did you ensure the ethics of your study. Okay? So ayun nga, and research instrument, if you have developed your own instrument, you have to cite it there. How did you develop your survey? Okay? What did you consider? What did you actually adapted it from existing scales? So you have to put it there. Did you develop your own? What's your system? Did you uh, test, okay, the relevance of each of the items there. So has there been any item analysis there? Yan. So ilalagay natin doon. And then gathered, ayan na nga, sabi ko kanina, yung inclusion criteria natin, what's the means of letting people know that you have the survey, or for example, if you are doing the qualitative study, yan medyo mahaba, 'di ba? I think parehas din naman, but both of them should have your own informed consent form, right? Both for the quantitative and the qualitative. So regardless of the method, you have to have your informed consent form. That's part of the ethics, okay, in doing research. And then you have to state it there in your informed consent form that if they wanted to discontinue with being a participant, they have the right to do that. Even in the middle of the data collection, they have the right to do that. If they feel uncomfortable, okay, with the interview or with the survey, they can decline, okay, or discontinue with being a participant. So yung mga ganon, no, yung mga details na ganon, kailangan nakadetalye yan sa ating informed consent form. So if that would be part of your discussion in the methods, it would be better. At least the journal is knowledgeable of what you have done in the process. Because basically, method section is just letting them know how did you go about with the research. So everything that you think they need to know about it. So even if, for example, you're doing an experiment and uh, yung first yung first step na ginawa nyo is not successful, you have to put it there as well. And then you have revised something in your procedure, just put it there. Step two, okay, explain. And okay, in the first attempt, for example, we did not consider this. That's why we tried a second attempt of doing this, and we revised this part, and it's our result. Okay, so parang ganon. Kinikwento nyo basically what they need to know. Okay, so there are journals which are not really particular with a certain format, pero yun nga, research design nandoon, see procedures nandoon, and participants. So this is just an example. As I've said a while ago, there are other ways of writing this. It depends on the journal. The key here is get your model paper. Okay, get your model paper in your target journal. Aralin nyo, paano ba sinulat? Ano ba usually yung style ng pagsulat ng mga tinatanggap nilang articles aside from, the themes? Siyempre, doon makikita nyo na, okay, so etong style na to yung medyo okay sa kanila. This is something acceptable in this journal. So might as well, I can adapt this approach because you have seen a sample. Before, hindi ako naniwala dito that you should be always looking at the model paper because before I think that, okay, because every study is different. I have, this liberty of writing how I think I should be writing my paper. But journal publication is different. Okay. You have to read their publications. You have to read their articles because if you wanted to publish there, you have to know what's norm. Okay, what's a norm in a certain journal article? So if you have seen that, oh, my style is in writing this part is similar to how the other articles published in this research are being written, then it's fine, right? So basta si research design nandun din si procedure. Sometimes the procedure, even the question is included there, or for example the general question that you have asked participants during the interview, they would be needing that. Okay, and some sort of the procedure and how you get about with the interview, okay, and the analysis. So yung iba ilalagay natin usually, di ba, pag sa qualitative, you put there, okay, after the interview we did a verbatim transcription, and after the transcription we try to code it, we categorize it, we thematize it, right? And then coming up with discussion of the results and discussion, okay? Because usually in the qualitative they're combined, but in other cases they're not. But for the quantitative it's always separate. So later we'll be finding that out. Participants, yeah, inclusion criteria. In this case, it's very specific, right? The program, the program of the students is here, their institution, because it was required. Okay, but the people behind these 41 participants, or the identity of these people, are not divulged in the methods. You cannot you know, tell them who they really are. So later you will be looking at some examples that you can use pseudonyms for qualitative. Okay, so this is one example of an initial paragraph that I have used for a quantitative. Ito kasi qualitative study to. So okay dun sa journal na ganito lang siya kasimple. But for the quantitative, the first part is participants. So kailangan nila ng demographic information. For example, I put there, it's a survey. Okay, here are the age range, survey link, distributed online, no funding. Yeah, in just one statement. Kasi yung style ng journal, gusto niya maigsi lang. Okay, in this one, parang medyo comprehensive ng konti. At this part, hindi masyadong importante sa kanila yung detalye ng collection, ng mga ethics. They just state it there, but it's not, they don't want you to elaborate more on that, okay? Pero ang gusto nilang makita is yung demographic information. But you do not put it in text, okay? So, yung method section ng ibang journals, they wanted to see the demographic information, but you put it as an annex, meaning after nito, after nitong paragraph na to, you just put, yeah, I just forgot to include it, open close parenthesis, insert table 1. So, kumbaga meron ka lang note doon. Pero, you are putting this table after the references. Kumbaga naka-annex na lang siya. So, mahaba tong table na to. I just put it here kasi ito pala ay sa kanila ng pagfo-format if ever matanggap na yung paper ninyo. Ayan, so sila na yung magfo-format yan kung paano nila gusto. So it's just in Word document. So if you are making tables for your paper, just make sure that the prescribed format of the journal is followed. Okay? So yun lang naman yun. Wala tayong standard, titingnan nyo lang kung paano nila gusto gawin yung draft ninyo. Kasi when you submit, it must be in a photo, it should not be in a photo finish how you have seen it online. Okay, no. You have to check what they prescribe in writing the paragraphs or in writing the table. So in this case, naka-append lang siya. Yeah, as annex. Okay? And then, since yung kanina, qualitative, I just mentioned, okay, what's the basic questions that I've asked in this research. So I have just asked them to narrate 3 incidences that they think they have this difficulty in speaking. But in the qualitative, it's different. You have to discuss your instruments very well because this is the focus of your methods. They should see that for example, you have made your own instrument. Okay, just tell them how you have developed the questionnaire. But there are journals who give more merit, okay, if you would be using established scales. So, ibig sabihin, ito yung mga skills na lagi na siyang ginagamit, for example, ng iba't ibang scholars in measuring a certain variable. So, meron kasing mga ganong journals that they give merit to that. Meron din naman na mga journals na they're not so particular with established skills. Okay lang sa kanila na that you have developed your own because they're after the new learnings. They're more after the knowledge that you have generated from that or some other purpose. Okay, but most of the top tier journals, they would look into what skill did you use in measuring this one. Okay, so kailangan i-discuss natin. So under the instrument, you have to put there what's the name of the scale, who is the developer of the scale. So this is a Filipino developer, De La Cruz et al. Okay. How many items that does questionnaire have? How many dimensions? Kasi syempre kapag naka-publish yung scale na yan, the author would discuss, oh, okay, I have these dimensions. So in this example, may tatlong dimensions yung scale. So you have to mention them. You have to also mention a sample question. Okay? And then, paano yung scale niya? Paano ginigradean? So you have to put there, for example, lower scores, indicate lower levels of acculturation, higher scores, higher levels. Ganon. So, etong internal consistency, it's being computed, okay, statistically. So, etong computation ng reliability, yan, lahat yan, kinocompute siya. And yan lang naman yung kailangan natin na i-specify dito that it has run, through this test and ito yung naging result ng reliability. So, ilalagay lang din natin, okay? And then, hindi mo naman kailangan pakita ng details nitong computation na to. Again, naka-append lang yan at the end of the article. Okay? So, puro yung scales lang yan. Sunod-sunod. Kunwari, you have used 3 scales. So, discuss mo yung 3 scales na yon. Okay? Okay. So, that's for the method. So, again, you just need to review kung ano yung requirement ng ating mga journals. Okay. So, it's now 10:30. We're now in results. So, results, magkaiba po ang results for the quantitative and the qualitative, right? So let's focus first on the qualitative. So for qualitative, we have to, of course, review the literature search kasi malaki ang bearing ng ating literature review dun sa discussion natin ng qualitative. So for the qualitative, usually results and discussion go together. But, okay, kasi before I have reviewed the paper that the author insisted that it has to be separate. So nagulat din ako na, akala ko kasi, laging magkasama. Kasi yun yung nakikita natin sa mga journals, results and discussion for qualitative. But there are also journals which accept different sections or separate sections. Okay, but both of these approaches, you have to go back to your literature search kasi it's important when you're trying to discuss your findings. Okay? And then, ayun na nga, you should do the coding kapag andyan na nga yung data sa'yo after you have transcribed it. So, yung transcription na ating qualitative, very crucial kasi kailangan natin sana makuha yung verbatim para mas magawa natin yung pagka-categorize, okay, based on codes. So, yun nga, if we think that these categories go together, we can merge them, and and later on we can develop a logical story behind our paper, that because we can feel that, oh, this is the thematic approach that I can put into this paper, because these themes can generate a logical story of what I have, of the data that I have right now. So sabi nga nila, qualitative, it's subjective. No, not really, because you have a system of doing it, right? Kaya nga ine-explain mo siya sa methods. For example, sinabi mo, oh, I've used en vivo. O di lagay mo doon that you have used en vivo, that you have used a software in aiding you. But, it's not a requirement. Okay? Manual coding is possible, most especially if you don't have a lot of data on hand. So, kaya mo yun. But the thing there is, how can you organize these data in such a way that you'd be able to thematize it, or you'd be able to create a composition that is readable, that is wherein people can actually understand the main thought or the flow of your thoughts. Okay, so yun yung key sa qualitative. Kaya maraming ayaw ng qualitative kasi mahaba daw, maraming isusulat, but the thing there is how you make sense of the data. But that's what matters most in a qualitative study, okay? Or in a qualitative, right in the qualitative section. So if you can see here, this is just an example of how we write a qualitative data. The first paragraph, of course, if you have generated a theme based on the codes and categories. So in this example, I have include here that time. Time is one category of difficulty in speaking. So based on the data that I have here, ayaw ng mga estudyante ng minamadali. Ayaw ng estudyante ng may set na time because, it gives them pressure, it gives them lower self-confidence in terms of speaking because of the concept of time. Okay, so marami pa to, marami mga arguments dyan. So when you are narrating how time is related to their speaking difficulties, kailangan iaayos mo yung mga responses nila in such a way that you are making a story out of, the data that you have. So you have the explanation in the first paragraph, and then you can capture, a very significant part of your verbatim transcription if you think that these transcripts would support your composition so much. Pero pag hindi, tanggalin natin yon. Okay? So usually kapag galing siya sa isang statement, we just use the ellipsis, tatlo. Kapag marami siyang paragraphs na minis, apat na ellipsis. And then we don't use the exact word or exact name of the source of information of the responses. You can use pseudonyms. Yung iba nagre-require, yung iba hindi. So you just need to know the standard of the journal if they require or not. So in this case, they required me to put the pseudonyms of the participants of the study. Okay? So for example, meron ka diniscuss na one aspect about the time, and then meron din ikaw another aspect of time. So, isusunod mo yun ngayon. But as for the arrangement, it really depends on you on how you think would make it, more presentable or more logical, yun nga, as they say. Okay? So, meron tayong time-based difficulty, and then another theme that we have derived here is the process-based difficulty. So, how they are given the process or how they have experienced the process, it affects their difficulty in speaking. So, yun, it adds to pressure, not just the time. So yeah, so that's just example on how you organize your qualitative data. But if what you have there is quantitative data, and the journal would allow you to put the tables in the text, we always write the text before the table. So hindi pwedeng si table muna nandun, and then as you see in table 1, so hindi po natin practice usually in sa journal articles. Si text talaga yung focus ng journals. And then si tables, those are just supplementary materials for your discussion or for the discussion of the results. Kumbaga, hindi siya yung bida, hindi bida si table. Ang bida talaga is yung text kung paano mo kinikwento yung resulta. Okay? So si table, it depends on the journal if they want you to put it in the text upon submission or just an attachment. Okay? So yun, depende nga. Emphasize significant figures in the table. So, for example, you're just writing a descriptive results of a descriptive statistics. So parang very simple lang, median mode, ayan. Kwento-kwento kung ano yung pinaka mataas, kunwari weighted mean, ayan. Kunwari mga simple studies lang na nakita mo, ito yung may highest weighted mean. Kapag describe ka dun sa iyong results, siya yung unahin mo. Okay? Kasi siya yung may pinaka-significant na significance doon sa ginagawa mong study. Okay? So, yun lang naman yung, if you're just working on percentages, yan, sa mga undergrad students natin, if you're just beginning researchers. So, kung ano pinakamataas ng percentage, put it in your write-up first until, from the most significant to the least significant results that you have in your figure. So, laging ganon. Okay, regardless of the data that you have or the statistical technique that you have integrated in your study, laging ganon, look at the most significant figure kasi yun yung magbibigay ng meaning or yun yung pinaka-meaningful dun sa inyong results. Okay? And yeah, I put there, do not repeat what is on the table, describe the results. So for example, nakita niyo percentage, sinabi mo na, oh okay, male, meron siyang 30% ay male, ang 70% ay female. So, kung yun ang nakalagay sa table, don't just repeat what you can see in the table, but make an analysis of that. So if you can see, if you think that 70% is under the majority, then put it there. Majority of the respondents are female with 70%. Well, the remaining respondents are male, mga ganon. Okay? So just, you put an interpretation on that para naman sa ating mga beginning researchers, hindi lang natin pag binasa ng mga reviewers, let's say, ng mga panelists natin, yung thesis natin, hindi lang siya basta inulit lang what's the actual figure. So the same thing in journal publication, you only highlight what is essential. And I've shown you a while ago that the demographic profile, okay, is usually on the method section kasi dun mo diniscuss who are your participants. If the demographic profile is just, it's not part of your objective, for example, you will not play around the demographics and it is just a way of profiling your participants, then put it in your method section as a discussion of your participants. Okay? And then aim for a logical presentation and analysis of results. Of course, itong logical presentation, it really depends on your variables. It depends on your theories. It depends on your hypothesis. Kung meron kang hypothesis 1 to 10 dyan, of course, the logical presentation would be per hypothesis. Okay, so ganun. It depends on how it depends on the flow of your objectives, depends on the flow on how you think that it would be best appreciated yung papunta kayo doon sa inyong discussion. Okay, and again, follow the table specs of the journal. It's really important kasi sometimes if doon pa lang sa formatting na journal, if they cannot see that the author can comply with it, sometimes hindi na nila tinatanggap. So, minsan yun yung mga cause ng mga desk rejection na, kumbaga, if they think that the material is not well written, binabalik na nila agad. Okay? So, we don't want to be that reason for us to be desk rejected, di ba? Kasi it's a simple instruction na, okay, si table dapat ganito, and then you didn't follow. Okay? So, sayang yung opportunity to proceed with the next level of review. Okay? So, here's just an example of the first paragraph of analysis and method. So, analysis and results. So, there are journals wherein they just put results, okay, in their section. Yung iba naman, analysis and results. So, regardless of the term, kailangan ilalagay natin kung ano yung preferred ng journal. So this is just, as a first paragraph to test the hypothesis, because I think I have a lot of hypotheses there. Answer the research question, a stepwise regression model using mean-centered predictive variables, blah, blah, blah. So, yung sabihin, yun dun pa lang sa first part ng inyong results, ipapaalala ninyo, although nasabi nyo na siya sa methods, ipapaalala ulit ninyo na, okay, yung resulta ko, ito yung ginawa kong procedure before citing the results of your statistics. Kasi kumbaga, kailangan nilang malaman muna, ano bang ginawa mo diyan? Paano ba yung procedure mo sa pag-compute ng mga variables mo? Parang ganon. So you have just in one sentence, just put it there, very short. Okay, very short. And then proceed with the results. So this is just a simple regression. So lagay mo doon na yan, regression results are presented in table 3. Pero si table 3, naka-ano yan, naka-append siya. Okay, kumbaga, nandun lang siya and then you're discussing as shown in step 4, table 3. Ayan, so ilalagay mo na doon yung mga significant findings. So yung mga nakikita natin F, DF, yung R, yung significance, nandun yan sa table. Okay, nandun yan sa table. Pero itong nasa table na to, you're not just telling, okay, paano mo nasabi na yung ethnic preferences a positive effect on acculturation? Or paano mo nasabing hindi? Isa-cite mo, B is equal to 0.03. Nandun siya sa table. Kumbaga, hindi mo lang sinasabi that B is equal to 0.03, pero sinasabi mo dahil ito ang resulta, hypothesis not supported. Dahil ito ang resulta, was supported. So, yung initial nating paragraph, i-describe natin ano yung result ng ating statistics. Okay, doon. And then, after that, saka na natin i-develop yung discussion later on. Okay, since si hypothesis 1, hindi siya supported, makikita natin, let's say, dun sa mga succeeding paragraphs na dito sa mga studies na ito yung mga sinabi nila, the results is counter to what has been studied before or the results of previous studies. Kasi hindi naging ganito yung resulta. Yan. So dun ngayon, later on sa discussion, okay, ng ating mga results. So, dito naman, no, sa pagdating sa discussion, sinasummarize na natin yung ating results. Kasi dun sa results, as in yung result lang talaga yung ilalagay natin. Okay, dun sa quantitative. As in yung result, ano talaga yung figures na lumabas. Is it supported or not supported? Pero pagdating sa discussion, kumbaga you all already make sense of the findings or of the results of the statistics. Kasi ito na yung paano mong papaintindi dun sa ating general public na nababasa ng ating journal. What then? Okay, what now that we have these results? Of course, we need to summarize the findings. We need to fit in that, okay, this is the result of the stats that you have, and these answers the objectives of the study. And then you discuss it along with the previous studies. And if you are looking into a certain theory, how did it contribute, okay, to that theory? Meron ba or wala? Okay, so ganun din kapag sa qualitative. So this is just an example. Wait, hindi ko mabasa. Okay, so for example, this paragraph dun sa discussion to ng ating qualitative. So kanina 'di ba pinag-uusapan yung tungkol sa language, yung mga sources of difficulty of students. So yeah, may konti tayong discussion dyan after ng result natin. In my paper, this was accepted as a conclusion. Okay? Kasi conclusion, may part na conclusion yung journal. But I believe that this should be part of the discussion. Okay? If I were to submit it to another journal now, kasi doon natin ilalagay sa part na ito ng discussion, ano yung na-contribute, ano yung mga insights na nakuha natin, no, in the results. So ano yung mga previous theories that are considered, okay, in your study. So I have mentioned this, yung 4 Ps of anxiety, and then at the same time, ano yung medyo na-contribute, no? Medyo na-contribute ng study mo in enriching this theory. So, pag-iisipan natin yun. May naidagdag ba? May naitulong ba? Merong another insight na pwede mong i-propose, okay, because of your study. So, yun yung mga hinahanap nila with the qualitative. Kasi what contribution does your study provide the body of the discipline? Yeah. Yan. Ito naman, this is an example of the quantitative. So, if you are writing the discussion portion of a quantitative, di ba nasabi na natin sa results kung ano yung, kung supported or not supported yung mga hypothesis natin. So, dito sa discussion, dito na natin siya i-explain. Again, pag sinimulan si discussion, paalala ulit natin doon sa reader, ano ba yung tinatry nating i-discuss dito? Inuulit na naman. Yes, repetition is key to cohesiveness of paper. So paalala natin ulit yung ano yung objective, yan, first statement, ano ang naging resulta. So what now that this is the result? So now discuss it per variable. Ito kasi no, previous studies say that this is supported, or this is linked, this is a positive effect. Kaya lang dito sa study na to, hindi. So show it, okay? Show it to your audience na ito yung mga developments, ito yung mga nakita. Before it's positive, now in your study, in this context, it's negative. Okay, so ano yung contributing factors? Bakit kaya naging ganon? So dito mo siya ilalagay. Has it been the ethnicity itself? Tingin nyo yung ethnicity ang naging factor doon? Sa tingin nyo ba yung number of of respondents? So ganon, meron tayong ano diyan. Para bang you are relating your current study to previous study. Ito yung dapat nating pakita. Not only the previous study but also a discussion of the theory, lagay din natin dyan. So kung meron tayong sa tingin natin of the theory that we think that is worth highlighting in your discussion, that is very much relevant to the results, lagay natin dito sa discussion. So it really depends on how you organize this. So I think in this aspect, I've organized it by hypothesis. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So, sa dulo, no, meron ka ding parang concluding paragraph that, okay, so what is a new insight that you have derived from your study? Hahanapin yan, no? That's a big question mark for reviewers. What now? Now that you have discussed this is consistent with these studies, this is not consistent with this. So what what's the difference? What went wrong, or what could have possibly went wrong with the study, or what could be a big factor that we need to consider in the future? So ganon. Yun yung mga tanong na dapat na nasa isip natin that we can put at the last paragraph of our article or of our discussion. So you have this uh, key takeaway for your audience and for your reviewers as well. Okay, so that's for the discussion. And now I've put here the future research and limitations. Before, marami kasi, diba, ang ano natin is si conclusion. So it's like answering your research question or answering your objectives. Kumbaga, point by point, dito natin siya nilalagay sa conclusion. But in writing journal articles, ilalagay natin tong mga conclusions natin sa discussion. Iaangat natin. Okay? So, alam ko na ang chapter 4 natin ay data analysis and interpretation, like that. So, yun, chapter 4, yun, kasi chapter 5, conclusion, di ba, dun sa Germanic thesis. But in writing a journal article, i-fuse na natin yan. Si analysis and interpretation, and si conclusion, i-fuse na natin siya under the discussion. Kasi we are answering actually our research problem and objectives in the discussion section. Yun nga lang, meron siyang interaction ng results and results of the study and previous studies. So dun umiikot yung ating discussion. Okay? So yung last section, actually it's not the last, the second to the last is the future research and limitations, because what now? You have this discussion. What now that you have this conclusion? Sa chapter 5, in our thesis, it's included there, right? Conclusions, recommendations, or implications. Yan, yung meron tayo dyan. They say that if it's qualitative study, we don't have conclusion, but only implications. If it's quantitative, we tag the term conclusion. But in journals, regardless, you have to have this future research and limitations, because you have to offer recommendations. So ano ngayon? What improvement does it give this concept or this variable? How about the study of this particular field of field of specialization? Ano ang na-contribute mo? And in terms of the study, what could be the potential source of error? You should not hold back, okay, in telling them what went wrong. Kasi transparency is very important in terms of putting forward the results of your study, because that would tarnish the process itself if you won't be transparent with the potential source of error, because that would be a point of development of other researchers. So if you think that the location is something odd with the results, then you can put it there. If you think that the nature of the jobs of your respondents has an effect, or it can be a potential source of error, just put it there. Okay? Kumbaga, hindi siya kasalanan that you have this potential source of error. You just need to communicate with the future researchers so that they can consider these aspects that you think could have an effect on your study. Okay, and of course, implications of the study. Implications in terms of, yes, sa thesis usually, di ba, inaan natin theoretical implications, practical implications. in journal articles, we also use that, or we also deal with that, and that's something important to, to journals, because they won't accept your article if you didn't contribute anything, or it didn't contribute anything to the field. Okay. Ayan. So, for qualitative, ayan, syempre wala tayong specific na conclusion, di ba? But you just gained additional insights. So, meron ditong, I've put there the recommendation, the use of code switching. Ayan, dapat it must be encouraged so that students would be able to have this, sense of confidence that they're not alienated, with their native language as they learn their second language. So, kailangan okay lang sana si code switching every now and then, most especially if they're inferior, ganyan, mga insights on what you have gained from the study itself. So, yung mga insights din natin ayan, based on the study, so, pwede nating i-develop si Kelsen, di ba? Yung kay Kelsen, it's just um, piece. Yung mga piece niya kanina. Ngayon, meron tayong uh, uh, four-piece din, pero I've proposed it prowess in speaking, pressure by time, political power and control, and people as press. So yun yung kumbaga, yung four-piece of context-based difficulty among students. And that's my proposal, and that's based on the research. But it was, adapted from the concept of Kelsen. So parang gano'n, no, na there's existing field. Okay. And then, okay, let's skip this. So quantitative. So yun, under the future research and limitations, you can say that, oh, hey, what does this study provide the discipline, and for the theoretical implications, ito yung magagawa niya, ano yung pwede niyang i-contribute dun sa ABCs of communication na binanggit kanina. What could be another aspect of cultural adaptation that, it can forward in this field, or for example, in methodological perspective, what do you think can be done better or can be done more in terms of the methods of research in cultural adaptation, yung mga ganon, no? So it has to have these perspectives, because this will provide direction to other researchers on how to continue on with this field of research. So titignan yon. So this is titled as Future Research and Limitations. Again, not all journals have this. Nandun lang sila sa conclusion, but you can find these sections in other journals. So yun lang naman yung difference ng point natin dyan. Okay, so yun lang naman. So more explanations on how you can guide future studies. So there would be continuity in the generation of knowledge in a certain field that you're working with. Okay? And then, this is the last of this section, reference. So sometimes si reference, hindi natin na-check ano ba yung kailangan. Pero I think I've reviewed, the some of the programs that Chiang Kai-shek is offering. Meron tayo sa business, sa education. So usually they use the APA style, right? So a reference list, it allows readers to recognize the sources cited within the manuscript. So, but I've also take a note here that only retrievable sources can be listed in the reference list. Kapag mga personal communication, you can put it in text, but you cannot put it in the references. But I believe if you're doing an article for publication, of course, you don't include personal communications, right? So we have to make sure that all of these materials that you have included in your introduction, in your review, or in any part of your article, it must be retrievable, if not online, at least in the physical copy of the book. Okay, so pero alam ko naman na most of you are doing it online, right? So usually APA tayo dyan. APA, this is how you write the APA style. So you put the reference at the end of the paper, not as a bibliography. So you begin the list on your new page. It's not part of the the actual paper, and then it's double spaced. So you put the title references. So it's centered at the top, do not bold, italicize, or underline. So entries are flushed left, and then subsequent lines are hanging indent. So mamaya bigyan tayo ng example. And then you alphabetize entries by author's name. So there's a separate section for discussing the APA style. Mahaba ito no? But I'll just be giving out the basic o yung pinaka-important because it's the usual encounters that we have when we are writing our papers. So usually online journals kinukuha natin, di ba? So when there are two authors, it's how you write it. Surname, and then the initials, the ampersand, and then the year, the title of the article, and then you can see there the title of the journal is italicized together with the volume number. So yun lang po yung ina-italicize natin ha. Yung title and the volume number. The issue number is not, and the page number. And then always include the DOI. Okay, because if you are submitting your papers, reviewers or even the editors can check your sources, and putting your DOIs are very helpful for them to verify that what you have written there are actual studies, or hindi natin inimbento yung mga materials nandun. So it would be easier for them to verify what we have put in text. Okay? So if there are three or more, so this is how you put it. But if you have six, you put an ellipsis kasi sometimes you encounter articles which have a lot of co-authors na mapupuno na yung paper mo. So stop ka lang, no? Stop ka lang sa six, and then put the last, okay, after the ellipsis. So that's how you do it. Okay? Yeah. So where can we publish? Where can we publish our research? So that's the next question kasi you have already written your paper, or meron kang existing thesis right now, and you tried to transform it in IMRAD format because you wanted to publish it. So these are the reputable, but not all, okay? There are other reputable indexing companies for journals. Pero kasi yung mga, let's say, mga university yung nagpapa-QS ranking, I think they are more focused in Scopus. There are other universities, for example, universities in China, they encourage their faculty to publish in not only in Web of Science, but specifically, let's say, for the English majors, SSCI. Yan, yung mga nasa SSCI under the Web of Science, they exclude mga ESCI, yung mga nasa zoological records, so ganon. So it depends actually on certain institutions. So for example, in PUP, where I work, ACI, okay, ERA, yung Excellence for Research in Australia, kasama yan sa ano namin, no, sa mga included na pwede namin pagpasahan, yung sa CHEDJIP or yung mga nasa AGPCI. So it's also considered for example, mga incentives, or if we are vying for mga merit promotions, yan. So kasama yan. So do not just search online, okay, for journals which are related to your study. Kailangan mapili din tayo kung saan natin isasubmit, because we don't want our papers to land in yung mga predatory journals, as they say. If you have been receiving emails, no, may mga push emails yan, most especially if they can get hold of institutions, webmails, ayan, you can receive push emails that invites you to publish. Sometimes you feel elated na, oh, na-invite ako na mag-publish dito, ganyan-ganyan. So, you have to research beforehand. No, don't just send them your paper. Maraming red flags yan yung mga predatory journals. Makikita mo na fast publishing or fast review in 1 week, mga ganyan. So, hindi po, pag ganyan yung mga nakikita natin, red flags yan, or nag-i-invite sila tapos you can find it in Google Scholar, yan, medyo red flags na yan. if you're not that particular with the indexing but you cannot find it in Google Scholars, medyo ano ka na rin, no? Medyo magtaka ka na rin. So reputable journals do not just invite people to, to publish with them and pay a certain amount and expect, and then promising a very fast publication in just 1 week or fast review after paying a certain amount. So please do not fall under the baits of these um, journals. So dito lang tayo, punta tayo sa mga databases na to and check if your work fits in any, in any of their journals. Okay? So yeah. So para masaya yung ating mga institutions there, because this is our way of helping them as well. If we can help them be visible in these academic community or in these indexing companies. Okay. And then we can also look for call for papers online. So yeah, this is just an example. So deadline ito February 1. No? So these certain this certain journal has a special issue. So meron tayong mga makikita ng mga journals that are scheduled to, to publish a special issue. Ito, sometimes nag-aabang ako ng mga ganito. So it can also be your practice that you can look for the call for papers because this is the reverse of the process. Sometimes, di ba, ang gusto natin, oy, gusto ko tong research, I will do this. Then after doing that, you'll be finding or looking for a journal that fits your paper. You can also do otherwise, okay? Look for call for papers and then make a paper out of that. Although there's no assurance that your paper will be accepted, but at least you have started something that you know will be accepted somewhere. Okay. So for example, if you're very interested in key theories in communication, so mga critics of communication theories, reviews of literature of com theory, so baka meron ka na mga nasulat na ganito. So might as well develop it to fit this special issue. So magandang strategy yun if you wanted to increase our publication. Okay. And then and make sure that the publishing company is reputable. For example, Taylor and Francis, it's from the Routledge Publishing. So it's international, it is reputable. So dun lang tayo magsasubmit, okay? Or you can look for book chapters. So ito, marami na, no? Because of Facebook, if you join academic communities, minsan may mga mag-share sa mga group chats, di ba, sa mga pages ng mga professional organizations. So look for them, no? Baka meron kayong interest or existing paper na very much uh, what do you call it, very much connected dun sa call for book chapters. Pag sa book chapter naman, same lang naman din siya, no? Kumbaga, it's also research-based, but the thing there is it will be part of a certain book which will be released by a certain publisher. So ito, this will be published by Springer Nature. So kailan ba ang deadline? So Feb 12. So by Feb 12, ang kailangan lang nila ay abstract, o di ba? So in this case, no, yung mga book chapters, they're just um after your plan, no? Kapag ganito yung mga call for book chapters, no, na pwede yung abstract muna. Ibig sabihin, gusto lang nila malaman kung ano yung plan mong isulat. Okay? But of course, it would help if you already have with you your paper. Tapos, ide-develop mo na lang siya in 1 month. Because as you can see here, deadline of submission of the first draft is March 31. So you have roughly 1.5 months to write the first draft. So ibig sabihin, even if you're just passing the or submitting the abstract, it gives you an idea that it is suggesting that you have to have the paper now, right? So ganun, baka naman pwedeng i-tweak mo siya in such a way that that would fit the book chapter based on the themes, no, or the topics that they have listed in their call for book chapters. Okay, so ito, this is also a way of publishing in reputable materials online, but it's just that it's a book chapter. So I don't know if your university is open to writing in book chapters or just focusing on the journal article. So just check with your institution what would help you professionally and what would your institution would require for you to do. Okay, and then of course, when we have looked at or submit our paper, we also need to be aware of ano nangyayari when we started to submit our paper. So, syempre, author submits to a manuscript to a journal. And then, pupunta yan dun kay editor. So, dito na nangyayari yung desk rejection. So, ito, ang pinakamasakit na rejection kasi outright rejected siya. But do not be disheartened with this because there are a lot of reasons why your manuscript can be desk rejected. Okay, first, sabi ko nga kanina, pwedeng hindi masyadong nabasa kung fit ba yung article niyo dun sa journal. Or maybe there's an instruction that you were not able to comply with. Very simple instruction in the formatting or in the template na hindi natin na-comply. Or commonly is it's a poorly written material. So yun lang yun. Pag nakita nila si writing style natin, it doesn't fit the IMRAD format, pwedeng ma-reject. Although we have good ideas. If it's not written in the convention of journal article publishing, so yun, medyo nare-reject yun. Kasi syempre doon pa lang makikita nila na kailangan tama yung sense or yung meron tayong sense of journal or article writing doon pa lang. Ngayon, kapag na-follow natin yung ganon, medyo napaganda natin yung paper natin prior to submission, yun, it will undergo the blind review. So meaning, blind review or double blind review or transparent review or open review. Usually double blind. Okay, double blind meaning hindi mo alam sino nagre-review ng paper mo, hindi rin alam na nagre-review kaninong paper yon. This is actually an ideal. And this is commonly the practice of journals right now. Okay? So yun, pag matapos na sila mag-review, usually, if you're the reviewer, you are given a month to review. Okay? Ganun kabilis, a month. Pero syempre, most of the time, busy yung mga reviewers. They would ask, uh, journals to give them more time, another 2 weeks, minsan another month to review. Kaya nagtatagal yung review ng mga reputable journals. Sometimes you can get your initial feedback at 6 months at mabilis na yon. Ako nga, I've experienced receiving feedback after a year. Pero syempre nakakaiyak na yon, di ba? Kasi you wouldn't know if it has been rejected or not. But 6 months, it's still decent, because after the review with one reviewer, meron ka pang isang reviewer. So, nag-aantayan yan. Okay? Nag-aantayan until the editor, they turn in both reviews to the editor. Siyempre, meron pang gagawin si editor dyan. I-assess pa niya yung review. Titingnan niya ano yung mga saan ka magko-focus. Pwede niya kasing bawasan yung feedback, ganyan, or dagdagan niya. Depende, no? On how the editor would manage, the feedback. So, and then it will be sent to you. So, yun na, pagdating sa'yo, it can be rejected na naman, di ba? But pwede rin kasi siyang rejected, pwede siyang accepted with major revision, pwedeng accepted with minor revision, or accepted as it is. So, yung accepted as it is, yun yung pinakagusto natin. Pero, it's very rare that it happens that it will be accepted as it is unless medyo gamay na natin yung pagsusulat. Okay? If we if you receive an accept with major revision, okay na yon. It's time for a bit of rejoicing. At least it's not rejected at the level of the reviewers. Okay? Until such time that you are going to revise it and resubmit it, and then you can get the second verdict if it will be accepted or not accepted. So it can be rejected even if you have revised it according to what the reviewers have put in their feedback. It's not always an assurance that you have complied with everything, that you will be eventually approved. So there are other factors behind that. Okay, but the thing there is we have to train ourselves on how to write properly so we can have more chances of being accepted with these different journals that we wanted to publish with. Okay, so how do you prepare? First, of course, when choosing a journal, make sure that your manuscript or your paper fits the journal. So if you learn that your colleagues have submitted in that journal, it doesn't follow that you have the same specialization that your paper would also fit the journal. So it really pays to read any call for papers or the previous papers published by that certain journal because you would have an idea that this paper or my paper is like this or my writing style is like this. Okay? So, kumbaga medyo meron ka ng benchmark ng mga pinopublish na articles nitong journal na to. So, you'd feel more confident or you'll be more assured that I am submitting in a right journal. Okay? Kasi ganun din sila. Pag natanggap nila yung paper nyo and it doesn't fit their themes or yung mga topics na pinopublish nila or even the methods, they would feel odd as well that, oh, why did this author submit in this journal? We don't usually publish these kinds of articles. So it will get desk rejected. So to save time and energy, make sure that your manuscript and journal and the specification of the journal go together. Okay? Next, read thoroughly the guidelines of the author. Sabi ko nga, this can be a cause of desk rejection. If you cannot follow instructions, ayan, medyo magkakaroon tayo ng problem. And then, usually, they require the blinded and the unblinded manuscript. When you say blinded manuscript, it only contains the title page without the author identification. Yung unblinded, ito yung meron ng author's identification. So prepare both kinds of manuscript because this is usually required during submission kasi nga nagkakaroon tayo ng blind review. So sa blind review, ang fina-forward nila sa reviewers ay yung mga blinded copies. Yung unblinded, it's with the editors. Okay? And then you have to compose a cover letter that you are, interested in submitting your paper to this journal or to their journal because, yan. So meron kayong konting justification why you think their journal is the best journal for your paper. At least in your cover letter, they can get your point that, oh, I believe that this is the best journal because, okay, these are the reasons. This paper is about blah, 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 right? You are trying to make them understand how your paper is relevant to the articles that this journal is or has been publishing. Okay? And of course, the most important, proofread all documents before submission. Baka mamaya yung manuscript nyo, merong pang track changes dyan na nakalagay. Dahil sometimes no, yung paalitan ninyo ng advisor, syempre maglalagay ng comments, may mga track changes, hindi nyo pa na-accept or hindi pa na-delete lahat ng track changes. So please proofread before submitting it to the journals. Sometimes yung mga periods, no? Ako before ang practice ko after ng period, may dalawang space. So make sure na one space lang 'yon, no? Sometimes yung mga ganong very simple aspects, no, nakikita nila. Okay? So 'yon. Please check them. Now, paano naman kung ayan na, you have submitted it to the journal and then you've waited for a long time. If you have submitted, for example, January, and then by June, no reply, kung accept or reject, you can email the editor. Okay? It's okay to follow up. It's okay to follow up a paper because they understand your anxiety when you're submitting papers if you haven't heard of them after 6 months. But there are journal submission systems that you can see the progress of your paper. So kung wala, please feel free to email the editors, okay? And once you get the feedback of reviewers, because it will go through the editor, okay? It will go through the editor, the feedbacks will be sent to you, usually through email, and it is through the journal submission system that they adapt, or if they don't have that, simply through email. So, basahin mabuti ang review or feedback ng reviewers because it pays for you to digest, to absorb everything that they are thinking about your article. Sometimes you need a week, to think about what they feel about your paper. Kasi sometimes or most of the time, it disheartens you to resubmit because, sometimes you feel, oh, parang they don't feel the merit. They don't appreciate the merit of what I have written. No? It's normal. It's normal to feel that way. But, after some time of, contemplating of the feedback, so you have to get on with being constructive about it. So they have told me these things. because they want me to improve my work. So that should be the mindset. But of course, before having that mindset, emote muna tayo kasi nalungkot tayo dun sa feedback. But that should not stop us from resubmitting the paper, most especially if, if their verdict is exempt with major revision. It's okay. Okay, it's perfectly fine to receive that kind of feedback. It doesn't make your article less. It's just that they're looking for something more. Okay. Sometimes we are limited, by our language skills because of being non-native. So it's understandable. But we have to, keep in mind that we should always put forth our thoughts, because most of the time this is what they look at our papers. If you are non-native, we are very much technical, very technical, but they're looking at our thoughts. What do you think about this section? What do you think about this issue? How can you elaborate more your thoughts on this? So usually those are the comments that I receive now, because we are very much careful with our words. We don't want to tell information or include information that we think is opinionated, but there are journal reviewers that these opinions, these insights from, our findings from our discussion, for them this is very much important because it gives them the character of the writer, of the author. So there are, reviewers who are looking for that as well. And then, if you feel better, revise it. Okay. But you have to take note of the due date of the revision. Sometimes we tend to overlook this, and then we're going to rush the revision in 1 week. And it's not effective. Okay. It's not effective to cram with the revision, because most probably you will not make it to the second review if you will cram with the revision. Okay. Please take time in revising your paper, think about it, and then repackage it according to what is suggested by the reviewers and also the editors. Because apart from the reviewers' comments, you might get instructions from the editor as well. So please make sure that before you submit your revised paper, everything's in there. It is well packaged, because you need to address it point by point. Okay? Isusulat niyo yun point by point with the revision. But aside from writing it point by point or revising it point by point based on the feedback, you also need to compose a reply letter to reviewers explaining how you have revised the paper, how you are going to point out this problematic area of the article, and you are to explain how you have revised that idea in such a way to reply or to respond to a comment. Okay? But, not all comments or feedbacks of reviewers must be followed, because sometimes there are comments which you think that are not really relevant. Pero this is, a very rare case. But if you encounter that case, you may not revise that portion. And uh, in return, explain in your reply letter why you think this cannot be revised. Okay, just explain your thoughts about this so that the reviewer can understand where you're coming from, why you don't agree with that suggestion. Okay, it's okay, most especially if you know that what you're doing is right. Okay. And then again, proofread all documents before submission, because typographical errors, it's an issue when we are submitting papers to journal articles. Okay. Because it reflects our professionalism as well. And this is the last of my slide for today. And thank you very much, everyone, our 106 participants, for your continuous listening to these lectures. So I hope you've gotten important insights, additional or new insights on what you know about research.